China's shipbuilding industry really surprises people from time to time. In October this year, Western commercial reconnaissance satellite photos captured two strangely shaped ships at a shipyard in a certain place in southern China. One of them, needless to say, is the Orca unmanned combat boat that later made a dazzling appearance at the 15th China Air Show. As for the other ship, it was even more puzzling from the satellite photos. This surface ship has a full-length flight deck similar to that of an aircraft carrier, but it lacks the angled flight deck of a large fleet aircraft carrier since the flight deck was not painted completely in the satellite pictures. Things like catapults, resting wires, craft elevators or similar items could not be seen. Only some espan-sun-like structures could be seen on the left side of the flight deck, which are similar to the left espan-suns of the Type 075 amphibious assault ship. On the right side of the flight deck is the island structure. From the satellite pictures, this ship seems to have 2 or 3 islands, namely 2 small islands at the bow and stern and a large island on the starboard side of the midship. It is not clear from the satellite pictures what functions these 3 islands respectively serve, and there has been a lot of speculation about the positioning of this surface ship at that time. According to the speculation of Western military websites, there were several possible positions for this strange ship with a full-length flight deck. Firstly, it might be some kind of affordable version of an amphibious assault ship. However, it's unclear what exactly this affordable version of the amphibious assault ship is used for. Secondly, it could be a technology demonstration ship for an amphibious assault ship, which is believed to be possibly used for demonstrating projects like shipborne unmanned aerial vehicles. But it's also not clear why a specialized demonstration ship has to be built just for demonstrating unmanned aerial vehicle projects. Thirdly, it might be some kind of marine research vessel. Of course, it's equally unclear what marine research tasks this marine research vessel with a full-length flight deck is supposed to undertake. However, in recent days, this strangely shaped surface ship, which looks like both an aircraft carrier and an amphibious assault ship, has actually gone out for sea trials, and photos of its voyage have been released online. Once these photos were released, we could see it more clearly and became more certain about some of its possible positions. See, at the very least, this ship has nothing to do with military vessels. Judging from its hull form, this ship is a low freeboard ship. Compared with both aircraft carriers and amphibious assault ships, its freeboard is particularly low, making the ship look as if it's lying on the sea surface. As we all know, the lower the freeboard of a ship is, the poorer its seaworthiness will be and the more likely it is to have waves breaking over the bow. Therefore, almost all of the currently in service naval surface vessels, except for some special purpose workboats, have adopted a high freeboard design to meet the requirements of ocean-going duties. This single factor basically rules out the possibility that this ship could be a military vessel. Meanwhile, the appearance of the superstructure of the ship photographed during its sea trials also proves that it can't possibly be a military vessel. After all, the design of the superstructure is rather civilian-oriented. Among the ship's 3 islands, the island at the bow has a superstructure similar to that of a tugboat, equipped with large glass observation windows and a navigation bridge, providing an excellent view. It can be regarded as an unprecedented large seaside villa. The island at the stern seems to be just a chimney, but it's unclear why the chimney of this ship is placed at the stern instead of in the middle of the hull, and the most astonishing one is the midship island. If the bow and stern islands just look a bit strange and are still within an acceptable range, then the midship island is truly a maritime wonder. It has a huge 4-story superstructure, with external ladders, corridors, large portholes, and rows of hatches. It looks just like a seafood restaurant or the Liu Lao General Grand Stage on the sea. Just this design alone is enough to confirm that it can't be a military vessel. For military combat vessels, in order to ensure the strength of the superstructure, It's impossible to have so many hatches and large portholes on the superstructure. And to ensure safety, reliability and operation in harsh sea conditions, it's even more impossible to set up ladders outside the superstructure for people to go up and down. Therefore, after actually seeing the video of the ship leaving the port, we can basically conclude that it's not a military vessel, let alone a cheap version of an amphibious assault ship. There's even little possibility that it's a demonstration ship for an amphibious assault ship after all. If we want to verify something like unmanned aerial vehicles maritime operations, we can just conduct drills on the Type 075 amphibious assault ship. What's the point of specifically building a demonstration ship with such a low freeboard, poor operation ability in high sea conditions, such a strange superstructure, and without a complete shipborne electronic system to practice unmanned aerial vehicle operations? The role of the mysterious ship, since it has nothing to do with military vessels. What exactly is this thing that looks like an amphibious assault ship? In fact, a tender announcement released by a certain shipyard before can give us some clues. The announcement mentioned that the shipyard was going to build a so-called test platform. The ship type of the test platform is that with a full-length flight deck. The document stated that the length of the platform's hull is 200 meters. The width of the runway is 25 meters. The molded depth is 16.5 meters. The draft is 5 meters. The economic speed is 12 knots. And it can sail safely in Sea State 7 and conduct operations in Sea State 4. The hull is made of steel, with twin adjustable propellers and a diesel-electric hybrid propulsion mode. It has a square stern. There are large special deck operation, marine survey, and scientific research test platforms on the Espan Suns and the Double Island superstructure. A hangar is reserved at the bow, and a docking well is reserved at the stern. This is the strange amphibious assault ship-like thing that we see now. So, if there's no mistake, the civilian amphibious assault ship should be the world's first full-deck marine scientific research test ship. Since that's the case, what are the contents of the scientific research on this marine scientific research test ship? And what is being tested? For a scientific research test ship, is it necessary to have a large full-length flight deck? Well, the key lies in what scientific research tasks it is supposed to carry out. For example, if China now wants to conduct scientific research tasks in the coastal waters of Southeast Asia and the South Pacific, such tasks may require the dispatch of unmanned aerial vehicles to conduct wide area searches, take photos, and record videos on the sea surface. With the performance of the previously equipped scientific research ships, lacking a full-length flight deck, they can either only use fixed-length rails to launch small unmanned aerial vehicles to conduct reconnaissance, surveillance, and photography on the sea surface, or can only operate unmanned aerial vehicles from land airports. And it's not that you can use a land airport whenever you want. If a third party is involved, the third party may not agree to let you use its airport to deploy your marine scientific research unmanned aerial vehicles, especially when China's unmanned aerial vehicles might be large ones like the Wenglong 2H. Such things can be very sensitive. However, you can't always send unmanned aerial vehicles from the mainland every time. Not only would it waste a lot of time for the round trip, but there would also be too many uncontrollable factors in between. Moreover, a large amount of fuel would be consumed on the way, and the cost effectiveness would be very poor. Well, with this kind of marine scientific research ship with a full-length flight deck, China can directly deploy large fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles on this kind of marine scientific research ship. When sailing out to the open sea, it doesn't need shore-based support and can directly launch unmanned aerial vehicles to participate in marine scientific research tasks on its own. Besides the full-length flight deck, we can see that this marine scientific research test platform is said to have a docking well reserved at the stern. Needless to say, with this design, it must be able to carry various types of unmanned boats, unmanned underwater vehicles, and so on. When it comes to marine scientific research investigations and hydrological condition measurements, what's wrong with carrying unmanned boats and unmanned underwater vehicles? So, it still undertakes marine scientific research and test tasks. Apart from deploying large fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles on the deck and carrying unmanned boats in the stern docking well. In fact, this large full-length flight deck itself is a universal test platform. If you want to deploy drilling rigs, or salvage equipment, or even deep submersibles on it, it has corresponding interfaces for you to use. If you want to store the marine scientific research samples salvaged and conduct scientific experiment analysis, you can also directly store and conduct tests on the deck by deploying scientific research modules. Therefore, in this sense, this large flight deck itself encompasses multiple usage scenarios. It doesn't necessarily have to be used only for deploying unmanned aerial vehicles. You can think of it as an experimental site on land where multiple scientific research modules can be deployed. And that should be okay too, of course, since there is a large flight deck. Deploying unmanned aerial vehicles is surely still its main function. Besides deploying large fixed-wing unmanned aerial vehicles, the test content of this marine scientific research test ship may also include some maritime unmanned aerial vehicle verification projects. For example, under the salt spray conditions at sea and in specific marine electromagnetic environments, it can test the efficiency of unmanned aerial vehicle swarms operating on the ship. By the same token, it can also test the efficiency of unmanned boat swarms operating on the ship. This can be seen from the fact that there seems to be a large mast installed on the top of the midship island of the ship, and there is a spherical radome on the top of the mast. Such a large radio frequency mast seems to exceed the needs of single unmanned aerial vehicle control and has nothing to do with things like marine radars. So, whether this mast can be used for controlling unmanned aerial vehicle swarms and testing the coordinated tasks of multiple unmanned aerial vehicles at sea is quite interesting all in all. The currently emerged amphibious assault ship-like vessel with a full-length flight deck, which can be regarded as a civilian version and has a rather strange appearance, is probably the strangest looking and most mysterious surface ship we've seen so far. Some experts said interestingly that this thing is designed so abstractly that it seems to be designed by AI. But don't say that. The more abstract something is, perhaps the more important the test mission it undertakes. Therefore, let's wait and see what tasks this marine scientific research test platform will actually undertake.